Good morning, my Son Up on 7 family. Welcome back to your Wednesday episode. We hope that you're enjoying all the conversations we bring forward to you. And move on to our last topic, and it's a very interesting one as we talk with Julian Brown, who's the founder of Naturejab. Today, we're going to find out more about Naturejab and how Julian, single-handedly constructed or transformed plastic waste into fuel. Julian, it's a pleasure to have you here on Son Up on 7. Thank you so much for joining us via Zoom. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're very curious about, how this transformation from plastic waste into fuel happened. Before we get into that, let's talk a bit about Naturejab. So what is it and what inspired you to get involved in this, and start transforming plastic into fuel?
Yes, so Naturejab is a company I started about 5 years ago. I started with the idea of turning plastic into fuel when I was still in high school. I was 17 years old, and I was very upset learning about the state of our oceans and the amount of litter in this world. And then I also learned how most plastic is actually not recycled. Even when you put it in the recycle bin, it ends up ultimately in the ocean or in developing nations. And so that kind of made me angry in a way, because I thought I was helping by recycling. And when I found out I wasn't, I wanted to figure out how I could recycle myself. And so I started to look into what plastic was. And I found out that plastic is actually made of petroleum, the same thing that we make all the fuels out of in this world. And so I wanted to know, well, what can we do with it then, right? Surely it has value or use if it's made of petroleum, something so useful. And so I started to do research, and I found the process of pyrolysis, which is a chemical process that allows you to take plastic and return it back into petroleum. So I'm able to take plastic and turn it into alternatives to natural gas, gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. And as I said, I've been doing this since I was 17 years old in high school for almost 5 years now. And the latest machine behind me here is my 5th prototype.
Oh, wow. So you keep getting better every time too as well. I want to ask now, because seeing this is something from like high school, and of course you've had years in this, what have been like the challenges that you've been having when you're trying to like really take this and make it into fuel like you've mentioned before? What have been the challenges, and how have you been able to overcome that? Because we're at prototype 5, so we obviously know that things are going well enough that you can consistently be getting better every time.
Great question. So the biggest challenges I've run into have been, the amount of plastic I can process. There's so much plastic waste. And so this machine behind me here is, I'm under a 20-foot by 20-foot carport here. And my first machine started off as the size of a pot that you could put on your stove. It was very small.
Oh, wow.
And now this machine is too big to even pick up. So I'm always continuing to find ways to increase the capacity that the machines can handle. And also I want to soon have this machine operate completely off of solar. So that way the machine has almost no energy cost to operate. So that would be a huge upgrade.
Wow. And now on that note, I wanted to ask, the machine that you have behind you, prototype 5, how much plastic can it generate into fuel? Because you're saying like you started off from like a crock pot kind of size, and now we're obviously bigger. How much now can this one be able to generate?
That's a good question.
Yes, that is a good question. And plastic is very, it's not dense at all. So you could have bags and bags of plastic and it only weighs a few pounds, right? So I want this machine to be able to process up to 100 pounds of plastic a day. Wow. I've just did a major upgrade on it that will allow me to increase the amount it can take. Right now, the most I've ever done is 30 pounds in one day, and I want to triple that. And so 100 pounds of plastic is probably the equivalent of probably a whole neighborhood's worth of plastic in a single day. It's a lot of plastic. And of course, there's no shortage of plastic. So I want to continue to increase the capacity so we can, have machines of this size all over the world and processing the whole world's plastic.
This is super exciting. So I know you mentioned earlier that it can be transformed into gasoline. And can you mention the other ones too? Because what I'm trying to understand also is like, okay, you can take plastic, put it in and transform it. Now, how does it trickle out into these other areas for fuel too? Like, how does that work?
Great question again. So the plastic is put inside this machine, and then it ends up breaking down into a vapor.
Okay.
And that vapor is no longer plastic. It's a permanent chemical change, and that vapor actually is it returning into petroleum. So it's petroleum vapor. That vapor then travels through these pipes you see that come up here, and these pipes cool down that vapor and cause the vapor to condense. And through condensation, kind of like how clouds rain and turn back into water, that vapor turns back into petroleum, liquid petroleum. And it's essentially like crude oil at that point. It collects inside of this keg here. And that crude oil is a mix of all these different types of fuels, the gasoline alternative, the diesel alternative, the jet fuel alternative. They're all mixed together in this crude oil alternative. And so that has to be refined, just like we do crude oil anyway, how we make gasoline and diesel out of this single crude oil liquid. We do it the same with this plastic alternative crude oil. So all those different fuels are within that oil. It just needs to be separated out through an additional refinement process called distillation.
Very good.
Interesting.
Yeah. So our next question that we have for you, Julian, is there any safety risk that maybe you're concerned about in operating this equipment? Also, any safety concerns in using the fuel that comes out from this transformer?
So the machine itself, from an environmental perspective, is actually quite safe to operate. This machine is a reactor, and everything is completely contained and controlled. So, for example, when this machine is on, there's no smoke, there's no emissions, there's no waste. Of course, producing fuel, flammable vapors and oils is dangerous. As a matter of fact, last year I was caught in an explosion from this machine, and it gave me second-degree burns.
Oh, wow.
But since then, I have fixed the issues I ran into. It actually was on my refinement process, what we were just talking about when I was trying to refine the crude oil, that exploded. And then when it comes to the fuel itself, environmentally, when it's refined and it goes through the same processes that we put regular crude oil from, the end products will be quite similar to the fuels we already are used to. So when you end up putting it into a car that has a catalytic converter, for example, the only emissions are going to be, for the most part, water and CO2.
Interesting. Now I'm thinking that we're at prototype 5. Where are you going from here now? Because I know you said that, of course, you want to make sure the 30 tons can go into 100 tons, and that's exceptional. But after that, like, what is the next step? Is there a thing where you are taking your company to partner with maybe other people that are environmental specialists, or something that they're going to be able to use it more and be able to help when it comes to pollution and gathering up all these plastics? Because definitely this is something incredible, and we definitely would want to see it be exchanged and carried out throughout the world.
Yes, absolutely. I'm always looking to expand and grow. So last year I got my first grant from Alexis Ohanian, the co-founder of Reddit and husband of Serena Williams. He gave me a $100,000 grant to continue my research and grow bigger. And so what I intend to do next is get another grant, a bigger grant, so I can have my first warehouse facility. Right now I'm in the state of Alabama, but I'm from Georgia, Atlanta. So I want to start a warehouse in Atlanta, and I want to hire people and bring on interns, like high school and college interns, and then deal with the plastic waste in that city and prove that it works at that level for a whole city. And then from then I can expand to the whole world once we can prove it works.
Wow, that's exciting too. And I love how you're going home and making sure that you start there and you can be able to have the connections with your hometown. I think that's also very much showing where your heart is at as well. For people that are connecting with this conversation and of course connecting with you and what you're doing, how can they be able to get in touch with you and maybe see if they can be a part of that internship or just a part of the conversation with you? Maybe they have ideas or they want to learn from you. How does that exchange work? Where can they go?
Yes, so my company name is Naturejab, but that also is the name of all of my social medias. And I've been doing an amazing job at sharing everything I do online. For example, on Instagram, just at the beginning of this year, I hit 1 million followers. So anybody that is interested in being a part of the journey or watching what I do, watching my progress, you can look up Naturejab on any social media platform and find me. You can also email me directly at business@naturejab.com. And that is also in my link tree, or you can go to Naturejab.com and you can actually apply through that website as well and find other ways to support what I'm doing.
Oh, that's
Very good.
exciting, definitely. And I definitely want to ask also, because of course, you know, your story is so beautiful of, you know, being in high school and getting frustrated and understanding that, you know, you also need to take it up in your spaces, in your area of how to do more for your world, you know, for the earth. What would you say, or how would you advise other inventors, other young people that are listening, and they're like, they have their passion, they have their heart wanting to do something, you know, seeing that you're at Prototype 5, obviously this didn't happen overnight, it wasn't a wake up and you were able to have this amazing invention. What would be your advice now to them to, you know, get to a place where you're at right now, that you've gotten a grant before and you know you're working on improving even more? How would you advise them to get to that place?
Yes, I think that it is, in the very words of what you just said, understanding that this is very much like when you, for example, grow a tree, like a fruit tree. If I'm growing an apple tree, it might take 5, 7 years before you get the first fruit. And that's just the process. It's going to take time. But, you know, you can't rush the beauty and the process and the learning and growing. And that's what you have to expect from anything. Of course, we live in a culture now where everything is so quick and instant gratification, but everything worth doing will be difficult and it will take a long time.
Wow.
So just expect to always have the fight in you and always persevere when things are difficult, and also expect that, you know, it will take a long time to get where you're going. I've been doing this for 5 years and I'm still not even close to where I want to be. Of course, what I have to show is a lot, but this is nowhere even near the level I want. I want every bit of ocean plastic gone, right, and turned into fuel. And that might take another 10 years, and it's okay. So that's what I advise to anybody doing anything. Always, you know, be in it for the long run and be passionate about what you do, and it'll be easy to keep going when it gets difficult.
Wow, Julian, some very wise words that you shared with our viewers today. Renata asked all the great questions. That's why I was like quite quiet, you know, during this chat. She did a fantastic job in, you know, getting to know more about you, your passion, what Naturejab is about, and of course, creating that link between you, your passion, you know, what you're putting out there, and of course, our Belizean community. So we thank you so much for joining us today on Sun Up on 7. We look forward to what's gonna come next. You're always open, you know, there's an invitation open if you have any updates for you to share with us here on Sun Up on 7. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As we wrap up this conversation, do you have any last words to share with our viewers?
Yes, I want to thank Channel 7 News for having me. And I would like to thank everybody for the time and for listening. And once again, anybody that wants to watch what I do, keep up with my work, you can find me on Naturejab on all social medias. And I look forward to seeing you guys again.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Julian. Of course, continue to dream, continue to push, and continue to do the great work that you're doing, because we definitely need it on this earth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And with that, guys, we're going to go to our next commercial break. And then when we're back, we're going to